Okay, so I have to say I'm inspired by my Iraqi and Lebanese friends who are posting videos about what's happening in Iraq and Lebanon. And I've been wanting to start a podcast for some time, but it's just like I don't know if I have the confidence or I have the time, honestly, to do that. But today that Gaza is being hit again, I feel like I need to talk. I just need to talk about this for a little bit, and I'm gonna make a video. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it eventually, where it's gonna go, but I just need to let it out. So I think what I need to do with this video is record in my own words what I think happened in Palestine. Of course, it's not going to be precise. It's not going to be as eloquent as what some Palestinian academics are presenting even tonight in San Francisco. I wish I had a little bit more makeup on. Well, my eyeliners. But I think it's important to share what I've been able to analyze. And there it goes. So a group of Zionists who are Europeans, of course, they see an opportunity for themselves of starting maintaining colonialism in the Middle East and starting a country for themselves. This way, the Europeans can continue to, oppress brown and black people in Africa, because Palestine, according to me, Palestine is part of Africa. And this way they can have control. Anyway, they go to the French and they tell them, we have really great connections to the Americans. And the Americans at the time, by the way, had won the war through inflatable tanks. You can Google it, it's a real thing. I read more than one time about it. I think that it has to be true. This whole inflatable army that they had in Germany that ended up winning them the war was basically designed by Hollywood. And we all know Hollywood's role in the US war against Germany and Japan at the time. So it's not completely far-fetched. It's part of the history. So the US won the Second World War, or winning the Second World War, with inflatable armies. A group of Zionists in Europe go to the French and tell them we have really strong ties to them, but they don't. And then they promised us a land in Palestine. The British offered us a land in Palestine. So you need to give us a better offer. And then they go to the British and tell them we have strong allyship in the US, and the French are giving us an offer and give us an offer. Anyway, at this point in Palestine, my grandfather and his generation had not even seen the British colonial existence at the time to be even a colonial existence per se. Maybe not that at this point, but a little bit before that. They were unaware that this was another colonial existence. Now that they are just been decolonized from the Turks, now they have the British. And then in a few months, they're going to have the Zionists, who are like all kinds of Europeans. It's not just British alone or the French alone. It's a new kind of colonialism that is going to exist for the first time in that part of the world in this particular format. And it had to look like this because it will benefit more than one colonial European power, and will continue to assert the white supremacist colonial powers in that part of the world that they later called the Middle East, so that they can differentiate it from Asia, and there are no connections to the Asian people, the Asian colonized people, between Palestine and them, and so that they can disconnect it from Africa, and there would be no connection other than the Arabic identity as the only connection between those parts of the land, northern Africa. And this way, Africans cannot fight for Palestine because it's not part of Africa. and then little by little that the Arabic identity was dismantled and destroyed. And then after that, there was another identity that was created, the Muslim identity, and it was dismantled and destroyed. And we all know the history of how these things happen. I don't need to tell you that. But what I do need to tell you right now is that we are living in a world that is the product of failing to decolonize that part of the world that is referred to as the Middle East. I'm going to call it the East. This continuation of colonization since the Second World War of that part of the world, because the physical existence of the colonization was in Palestine, but that existence has recruited every single president, or either recruited them or paid them money, hush money, for every single president of every single country around that part of the world. Countries that are divided by borders that were written by the British and the French, the colonials. But they are not divided by geography. They are not naturally divided. Like if you go to the southern part of Jordan, the Bedouins there will not say that they're Jordanians or Saudis or Egyptian because they are from that land. They are not from that country. Those countries are new existences, right? And so the American people of color in the US who are confused about what's happening in Palestine, it's your land that's being colonized right now. It's your people that are being bombed in Gaza. But they have divided and they have fractured our connections to each other in really slow, consistent, continuous ways for decades and centuries, that we have forgotten who we look like, who we are, and we hate who we are so that we don't have to fight for each other. It's easier that way. So this kind of complete moral destruction, complete dismantling of our identity, of our human identity, regardless of race. This race is a new notion that they've created, and before it there was like the religious notion. All of these things, they just evolve, right? And we are now living in the world that has been created by this white supremacist colonial existence that gives itself cover through recruiting our people in institutions that they have created, become financially dependent on that, in clergy that they have funded so that we are controlled on a religious level and nobody can move and change the ritual of this continuous ritual that they are enforcing upon us. And they have done it in academia and the intellectual people, which is class. Palestine will never be free until we are able to dismantle that class piece. And that is, I think, the most difficult of all. Basir al-A'raj, when I was reading him the other day, he was talking about how we as Palestinians are currently living ما بعد الاستعمار. بيقول we are colonized، نحن محتلون من قبل الفلسطينيين. I'm paraphrasing here, please ما بتقعدوش تعملوا لي هلا دراما. I'm paraphrasing, but he's basically saying what Frantz Fanon said من قبله مليون سنة لما صار يحكي إنه when the colonizer comes into a country, the first thing they do is create the middle class so that they can become the ruling party. And if the people ever have to rise against that colonizer, they're gonna have to kill that middle class first. So now we are living under Palestinian occupation, under our own government's occupation in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Palestine. بديش أكمل. I don't wanna be banned from all of these countries. I have the right to go back to these countries, but I have to speak up against what is happening. عشان I live here in the US, because I thought that would be a better life for me, where I can just at least be myself, and then I see this middle class that I'm talking to you about. And مش بس I see it and I understand it, and I understand how I myself used to respect this class, used to respect this kind of thinking, not knowing that there is an entire world that is trying to place them in these particular spots so that I can feel that way constantly, like a ritual. Anyway, I'm saying all of this because Gaza was hit today again. And it's not, even when I say the word Gaza was under attack again, like, when was Gaza ever not under attack? There are millions of people in that city. Millions. Children who are seeing their waking up to seeing both their parents gone. Entire families wiped out. In all of the studies used to share, the studies that people, those academics that are giving lectures right now, they used to share the articles about how Gaza will be done by 2020. Unlivable. We're in 2019 and Gaza is being hit again. And I don't know, like, are we on a moral level at this point where we are okay with seeing millions of people die? And no, maybe because I'm Palestinian, I'm so emotional. But I'm thinking, as a humanity, with all this accumulation of knowledge that we have been able to acquire on wars that have killed entire people, are we like so entrenched in our identity politics and our careerism and our fear to a point where we can't even find the language to talk about what's happening in Gaza? And you call that a movement? That is an institutional movement. That is a ritual. It's religious by nature. It's constant. A movement does not look like that. I'm sorry. A movement knows how to talk about an entire nation being wiped out, an entire nation living under intergenerational trauma, but they don't even know what the word trauma means because they are still under that constant attack. Trauma happens when you've had time to really think about what happened and, oh, what just happened? I think I have trauma. Gaza doesn't even have the space, the second to understand, إنه يا عمي, this is fucking trauma. Yeah, I've been wanting to do a podcast for a long time, honestly. بس إنه عقدوني, like, they are all about self-promotion, and I just don't know what part of me is vain like that and wants to do it. But I want to post this one. Akid, I want to post this one. Because I don't want to keep reading the news about what happened in Gaza and feel like there's nothing I can do. At least I can talk. At least I can talk to someone other than myself about this. Because we're all tired of hearing about it. And there's a specific way that is being talked about it that is so heartless, that is so technical, that is so, academic, to explain exactly what happened. Maybe we'll find a solution, fish solution. What was taken by violence can only be acquired back by violence. Every single thinker that ever came into this world told you this. James Baldwin warned you of what the world could potentially look like for people like, for my generation, for my daughter's generation. You didn't listen to any of these people. And now you're mobilizing for your own enemy to go into Congress and recruiting your own people to go into Congress to legitimize another colonial existence for another indigenous nation so that you can have a little bit of power, a little bit more jobs in your community. to find a way to use the money of your community in the US into this. Listen, we're all guilty at this point. We've all done something shit to each other. I'm guilty of it. I'm gonna make mistakes. I just want to make that clear. But in this moment of clarity, I really, really think that we can do better. What we're doing right now is not enough. And yeah, that's it.